Okay. So if you look at the list of these banks, I'll explain the SWIFT system as I understand it. The SWIFT system is really just an intranet. It's for communicating transactions, and it's just the messages. There's no money or no coins or dollars being sent through the SWIFT network.
It's a messaging system, yes.
It's what they call a messaging system. And it does, I think, it's some astronomical amount of 8 billion messages per month or something. It's crazy. And it's not a U.S. product, although we are one of the most important members. It is owned by the member banks. It's headquartered in Belgium. It was started in the UK. And the way it works of these 2,000 or so banks that are connected to it, when you want to send dollars, is what's important here, from one country to the other, from one bank to the other, since you're not sending money, every bank has an account with all the other banks. So the message will go through the system saying, okay, you've got to transfer $100 million from this account to that account, and they'll literally take it from box 1 on their end and put it in box 2, and the bank in the U.S., as example, does the reverse. So
and just so it should be noted, it doesn't have to be $100 million. In fact, you can use SWIFT to transfer money with a bank transfer to the No Agenda show as a donation for just a few $100 and it goes through.
Not from Russia. Russia.
Not from, this is true. From Russia, forget it.
But so as an example, Apple Pay and Google Pay, they no longer work. You can no longer transmit money through this system because that's who they're connected to. But when you look at the list, you'll notice that the banks that work directly with the energy sector, they have not been cut off because the EU, before this all went down, bought $700 million worth of energy, mainly gas. So they were prepared for this. They will still be, so when they say imports and exports, that's bullshit. They will still be able to purchase gas. So there's some gaming going on here, and only the people who take the time to look at it will understand. Now, the SWIFT system, just as an aside, is a problem because George Bush and the NSA and CIA were called to task by the New York Times, actually, because they had the terrorist finance tracking program in place on SWIFT, and they were spying on all of the international payments. They got caught, and that became, an international scandal. SWIFT actually was kind of in trouble at the time. Remember, the Europeans wanted to start their own network, and they did. But doing this is very risky. If they cut off the energy part, then I believe that we can speak of the trigger for the Great Reset. And it's become clear to me now what the whole idea is. I go back to the UN Secretary General who said, right now, we have to transform the global financial system, and after that, we're going to tackle climate change. It's kind of, they're related, and it's happening in reverse order. But I believe the plan is to skyrocket energy prices. European natural gas already up 60% just because of this incursion, whatever the heck it is. It also dawned on me why in the Netherlands, it's so simple that I couldn't figure it out. So many people have EVs in the Netherlands. And the growth has been exponential, and they're not Teslas. They're small cars with batteries that have, limited range, but enough for a smaller country. And I finally understand it's because they literally cannot afford the gas. Now, gas is already going to be sparse. And, whatever happens in Ukraine, that's a major throughput for the gas itself, with Nord Stream 2 not available or capable. The prices are going to go, I think the price is going to go up so much that people will not even be able to charge their EVs at a certain point. They're going into lockdown over climate change. Whatever this energy price is, they are trying to screw it up. Now the Fed doesn't have to raise interest rates. We need to print money because we're at war. They're extending the death knell of our current, and this is my opinion, of our current financial system. And they had to, because it's completely out of whack. And I think that now they're just going to say, you know what, screw it. This is all Trump's fault. Our prices are out of control. We got to get to wind as soon as possible and solar. But we have to get rid of this nasty ass petrodollar because that is the plan. If if oil is no longer desired, then what does that do to the petrodollar? It's not important anymore as the world's reserve currency for exactly the way it's being used now in a blackmail scheme, saying, hey, you better shut up or we'll turn off these other banks, and then you won't be able to sell your stuff because it's all priced in euro or dollars. And then we see who wins. Is it Xi, who comes out with his digital renminbi? Can the Federal Reserve still throw a central bank digital currency into the mix? I think we're at the cusp. I think this is exactly where it is. And let me just add to that.
Hair on fire.
Yeah, my hair's on fire. I've been looking at basically all the financial moves, but you've got this. Here's what I did. I went searching for transform the global financial system. That's what Guterres tweeted, and I find top hit for that is and literally here's the article title: UN-backed banker alliance announces green plan to transform the global financial system. And this is a bunch of bankers. I'll give you the names in a moment. And they started the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, GFANZ, which has been around. And lo and behold, there's a pledge here, and it's for all people in financial companies and organizations to pledge that every investment they do, everything they advise their customers will be about net zero 2050 or before, as soon as possible. It's a dire emergency, and they're signing pledges that they will do this. And who is at the head of this club? Mark Carney. He's the co-chair. He's the former Bank of England, their Federal Reserve chairman. Mike Bloomberg. Oh yeah, he's right there. And I think he's there to make sure China is in on the mix. And then we have the CEOs of the following banks: Allianz, Aviva, AXA, Banco Santander, Banco Colombia, Bank of America. Oh, there's the Fink, Larry Fink, BlackRock, CEO of Citibank. I mean, they are out to ruin the petrodollar, whether it's by making it impossible to pay for petroleum products with the dollar, or whether it's just by removing petroleum products altogether. It won't be necessary. So there's got to be someone with the plan. And I really think the way they love what China does, they might want that digital renminbi to be the new world reserve currency. And that's not necessarily the government. That's the banks. Hair on fire, /.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Why would you be sorry I feel that way? It's a great time to be a Bitcoiner. I'm happy about this.
Okay, well, that's good. All right. Well,
you have nothing to say about that? You have nothing to say about that?
I just...
You could say you don't agree with it.
These guys can pull this off.
Well, just a little bit of feedback would be nice. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just curious if you see that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not agreeing with you. I don't have any comment on that because it's nothing. It's not in my wheelhouse. I don't think the world's coming to an end, or these guys. I know that they're always wanting to do this and they want to do that, and then they die because they die of old age. You only have so many years on
that.
That
is annoying. That is annoying.
And then they drop dead, and then
they
that's
don't
the
get
end
it done.
of that. And the next guy comes along with some other idea, and they never quite get it. They never quite pull it off, even though they always want to. And that's what I'm saying
right,
here.
Okay. I have one other clip about the sanctions, just to show you that how much theater this is. And Matt Lee is back. He had a little relapse there, where you had clips that you didn't even put him in the clip on the last show.
No,
he's back now, and Ned handed out a list of exemptions to the sanctions. Because there's not just financial sanctions, there's sanctions about who can meet with who. I don't know if I can actually call Sir Gene. It may be illegal by the sanctions, but they have made a number of carve-outs, and Matt Lee was trying to get Ned to just admit this is a scam.
Because I think I asked the wrong question. I should have, instead of asking you what is exempted, because I've seen the list of exemptions, and it's frankly huge. Can you give us an example of the kinds of talks that now are no longer going to take place?
You're asking me to...
are we talking about cultural exchanges or what? I mean, because if
Matt,
you look at the list of stuff that's exempted, you start with the JCPOA, you go to climate, you go to COVID, you go to anything having to do with consular affairs.
What you will
go
see...
to anything that the seventh floor thinks is significant enough, which could be anything. So I'm just wondering, what is it?
You will see
Arctic Council in there.
You will see
every single.
You will see a focus on our core national security interests.
Yeah, but every international organization, contact with the Russians at every international organization is carved out. It's exempted from this.
Matt, I'm not sure this
question. From the ICAO to the Arctic Council to the OSCE.
We are going to pursue.
So what has been banned or halted because of this directive?
We are going to pursue what is in our national security interests. Some of the things you just listed are fundamental to our national security interests. Just because Russia has taken this action doesn't mean that we should stop caring about our own security, the well-being, the welfare, the safety, the security of the American people. You've seen for yourself at least what purports to be a list of areas where we need to engage, we might need to engage to pursue those core national security interests. I will leave it to your well-informed imagination what might not meet that criteria.
I'm just wondering, can you point to something specific that is now no longer able to be talked about with Russians bilaterally because of this? Because it just seems like almost everything that one can imagine, except for, I don't know, licensing for artwork to come to be loaned to a museum
the Russian
is included.
So everything is excluded except maybe artwork from Russia. I believe it. This is a game they're playing, and a dangerous one. And they're insane. I have
there you go.
What? They're insane? Does that help?
They're totally insane. Well, you got Hillary. I'm telling you, those Hillary clips that you played. Mm-hmm. It makes you just visualize, and I'm sure everyone out there did the same thing. You visualize those worst pictures of Hillary with her eyes bugged out and the bags under the Sith look, and she's just like spewing, venom. She just sounds nuts.
I have 4 short clips, each about 25 seconds, of Abe Lincoln, as our Secretary of State. And this is how insane they are. This is what they believe is happening, what's going on, and what this is the narrative, I guess.
Joining us now is Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your time.
Good to be with you, Nora. Thanks.
Well, there were a number of alarming developments today. Do you believe that Ukraine's capital of Kyiv could soon fall to Russian forces?
Well, it's certainly under threat, and it could well be under siege. This is the opening salvo of a massive invasion, and we see this continuing and threatening Kyiv and threatening other major cities in Ukraine.
Yeah, massive salvo. Mm-hmm. What?
He says it may be under siege. We have intelligence organizations. If it was under siege,
we'd know.
You'd know that minute.
All I see is reporters with helmets and flak jackets on saying, boy, it was really rough here a little bit ago, which we don't have for you. And then they're showing B-roll of rockets flying through the air in the corner. And there's like people walking behind them. There's people looking over the railing. I'm not stupid. I have eyes.
When President Biden addressed the nation today, he said that Putin wants a new Soviet Union. Is there intelligence to suggest that President Putin will advance beyond Ukraine?
You don't need intelligence to tell you that that's exactly what President Putin wants. He's made clear that he'd like to reconstitute the Soviet Empire. Short of that,
he hasn't.
He'd like to reassert a sphere of influence around neighboring countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc. Now, when it comes to a threat beyond Ukraine's borders, there's something very powerful standing in his way. That's Article 5 of NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all.
All right, so this is the trope, and they talk about Putin's 5,000-word article where he allegedly said, and everyone talks about it, but I have yet to see an official original copy of anything, that he said, it was a tragedy. I want to restore the Soviet Union to its greatness. Now, what I do know he said is, very short line, those who do not mourn the passing of the Soviet Union are heartless. those who want to reestablish it are mindless. That's what he said. And he said a lot more. He said, hey, these regions, it's the same as Georgia. We're protecting the people who want to be with us from the Ukrainians. The people in Western Ukraine, they're being attacked by the Azov battalion, the Nazis, the ones that John McCain drafted to shoot civilians and military on Maidan Square. We continue with Anthony Blinken.
So on that point, while U.S. troops are not in Ukraine, they are close by. So what's being done to lower the risk of some accidental escalation with Russian forces?
Well, you always want to make sure that you don't have miscalculations, accidents. And so one of the things we're looking to do is to be in communication with Russia on a military basis to make very clear what it risks if it miscalculates.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the new Hillary Clinton. I'd rather have Hillary than this guy. What a wuss. Just a wet noodle. Now, of course, we have to scare America.
I want to ask you about some of the troubling words from Vladimir Putin's speech. He warned of consequences never seen in...
Gosh, just listen to him go,
I want to ask you about some of the troubling words from Vladimir Putin's speech. He warned of consequences never seen in history. Was he threatening a nuclear attack?
Well, I can't begin to get into his head and to say exactly what he means by those kinds of words, that kind of bluster. But again, we've been prepared for whatever course that he chooses to take. We were prepared to engage diplomatically if we could to divert him from the aggression that he's pursued. We are also equally prepared now that he's committed that aggression.
We're prepared. First strike, nuclear. Oh, yeah. This is it. We're all going to die. World War III. It's happening. I got a call from a dude named Ben, protector of the megawatts, who works inside the critical infrastructure security business. And he says, the company he works for has probably the largest intelligence agency that is hired to protect critical interests. So that's mainly cyber. And they also have a huge array of risk management analysts. And he said, I've never seen this before. He called me. He's never called me. He said, I've never seen this before. All the intelligence guys are saying, this is bull crap. And all the risk management, the analysts, they're like diving into the bunkers saying World War III is coming. So he says, I've never seen that divergence between those two groups. But maybe it has something to do with this, with the SWIFT system and oil.
Russia's economy is fueled by gas, and the U.S. is a consumer. So would the U.S. consider cutting off oil and gas purchases from Russia?
Well, what we're doing, Nora, across the board is making sure that we inflict maximum pain on Russia for what President Putin has done, while minimizing any of the pain to us. We're in full coordination with other countries, both consumers and producers alike, to minimize any impact that this may have on energy prices and on gasoline.
Well, how's that working out, Blinken? $7 almost in California. It's so bad, and I am so convinced that energy price, that they're going to price energy just off the radar as their plan for whatever change they might not make because they die because they're too old. I actually called my guy over the weekend, Greg, he's a blacksmith. I said, have you ever made a gasifier? And he said, oh, crap, I was just about to call you. Look at all this stuff. I have plans and everything. And this came to me as, I have the generator, which runs on propane. I'm seeing everywhere, we should get rid of first of all, the greenies are after propane, but it's already $2 a gallon. It's crazy. The propane, so I have to fill up my 500-gallon propane tank. Cost me $1,000. That could double. And I remembered a conversation from I was thinking steam engines. I've been looking at. I don't think the batteries is going to work. And we talked about gasifiers, about wood burning trucks, like 12 years ago. You remember that?
Yep.
And he's going to build me one. The gasifier where you burn wood, and it's going to.
I think this is appropriate.
And it's going to power my existing generator.
If anything, I think you should power your truck.
Well, and that was the second thing. I'm not going to wait to buy a flying car. I'm going to get an old flatbed Ford that has a tow hitch, so I can drag the burning system behind me and drive with it. Oh yeah,
this is the way I've always seen you going out.
Yep. What do you mean going out? I don't want to die. I want to drive. Gasification systems are cool as crap, and we have so much wood around here. And he told me about a buddy of his who was actually done this with his truck, and he says, I can go about 15 miles on a dead cat. He said you could throw anything. You could throw anything in there. You could throw whatever you want as long as it can burn. Then you can drive on that. People got to look it up. Gasification. It was the Great Depression when they did this.
It was usually it wasn't done in this country so much. It was done in Europe and other places during war times.
Right. Yeah. Well, isn't that where we're at now?
Well, according to this is all a psyop. No, we're not there.
No.
We're not even close.
But we're there with the oil. We're there with the oil and the prices.
It doesn't work out. Believe me.
Okay. I you know what? I don't want the world to come crashing down, but I am preparing myself.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I sure am. Absolutely.
Okay, let me get back to my RT clips because there's some good stuff. There's actually when Blinken says
it's irresistible. Once you've seen it, you can't not see Abe Lincoln.
He says that we got to punish for Russia for what Russia did. What did Russia do? I'm asking you.
What Russia did is in the narrative or for real?
No, what did they do? But even in the narrative, what did they do? I'm just saying. I'm asking.
They invaded Ukraine.
To do what? What did they do? Did they kick anybody in the butt, or they shoot someone in the head?
Well, no, I of course
I saw that missile, but that nobody's questionable.
Well, even you said Kiev airport was attacked. That missile wasn't even. That was Lviv.
Well, the Kiev airport, and then of course since they never showed us one way or the other about the Kiev airport, they're talking about the Antonov. Mm-hmm. It was retaken somehow.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. So
we don't get it.
But
we don't have any good
what would logically happen is Putin would install a pro-Russian government. They're
Okay.
they're accusing. Yeah, that's what they're saying is he's going to take it over.
They actually have done something. First of all, let's listen to this on RT. I'm going to find. I got the one thing here. Here's what they actually have done. This is RT News Tidbits.
It shows a dam being blown up by Russian forces.
Yeah.
It was built back in 2014 by Ukraine to
right.
block a canal supplying water to Crimea right after the region became part of Russia. Crimea had suffered severe water shortages ever since, but the Russian Defense Ministry says that supplies will soon be restored in full. Meanwhile, all is calm in the Chernobyl exclusion zone around the remains of the nuclear power plant. 2 days ago, it was taken under the control of Russian forces, and now Ukrainian and Russian forces are jointly together keeping it secure. The facility's safety personnel continue to serve there, and radioactivity levels are reported to be normal.
Ooh, I read it, and I have a quick clip from a TikToker about the dam, which has some extra info.
Why would Russia want to invade Ukraine? My take is not what you think. This is the northern Crimean Channel, which runs from the Dnieper River all the way to the eastern point of Crimea. Completed in the 1970s, it provides about 86% of the fresh water to the peninsula. But following the Russian annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, Ukraine turned off the flow of water by constructing a dam. This effectively killed agriculture in Crimea as the cultivation area shrank by 90% in just 2 years. Additionally, this resulted in severe water shortages, with water only being available for a few hours a day. While Russia invested billions into Crimea, this will not fix the water issues. Recent groundwater projects are starting to run dry. Russia repeatedly applied pressure on Ukraine to reopen the northern Crimean Channel and even threatened to use military force in 2017 if Ukraine doesn't comply. Letting the Crimean population of 2.5 million people go thirsty is not an option. This conflict is not about gas, but water.
I'm surprised we missed it, because that to me was like, holy crap. I didn't know any of that was going on.
Yeah, choking him. Let's choke him, starve him to death.
Well, no wonder. I mean, so they blew up that dam. Okay, that makes sense.
RT had a movie of the dam getting blowed up.
See, but it's interesting that RT has the story, but so does the Chinese TikTok.
Yeah, but we don't get that story in the United States. Nobody knows that.
That has to get deplatformed, bruh.
That's why you got to deplatform.
Deplatform.
So now the other thing was the takeover of Chernobyl by the soldiers, and then in agreement with the Ukrainians. What are they doing? A joint venture on the side?
Chernobyl has fallen.
Russia had some sense that they were going to sabotage. Somebody was going to sabotage.
Yes,
Chernobyl.
Of course.
And so they got to lock that thing down.
Yeah, because they already put the cement dome over it, so we don't want anyone cracking that thing. But I see on the kind of the periphery, I see Article 5. They're trying to figure out how can we implement that, and that's the military-industrial complex speaking, because they're the shills are on television. Well,
yeah, they can't do it.
Well, if there's some radiation from Chernobyl that goes to other countries, that would trigger Article 5. Yeah, this is a good one.
Well, that's not going to happen.
But so cyber, if it's a cyber attack in a neighboring country that's NATO.
The cyber thing is dubious.
Well, of course, but that's why it's so obvious that they can trigger whenever they want. Just say cyber. Turn off the light, say cyber.
Here's a clip. This is from Al Jazeera.
Oh, how are they doing these days? How are they doing these days?
They're not doing much. But this is the Russian sanctions clip with some information kind of from their perspective.
Western nations are uniting to cripple Russia's economy and its ability to finance the war in Ukraine. Certain Russian banks are to be barred from the international finance system, and that means they'll be prevented from carrying out transactions worldwide. The targets include Russia's central bank, which holds reserves worth $600 billion.
We commit to ensuring that a certain number of Russian banks are removed from SWIFT. This will ensure that these banks are disconnected from the international financial system and harm their ability to operate globally. SWIFT is the world's dominant global interbank payment system. Cutting banks off will stop them from conducting most of their financial transactions worldwide and effectively block Russian exports and imports.
William Black is an economist and professor of economics and law at the University of Missouri. He says Russia is ill-prepared to cope with sanctions.
If you keep the sanctions on economically within the next 2 to 3 years, they will have a very substantial bite. And by the way, the things that Putin has been doing to supposedly prepare the Russian economy for being sanction-proof are actually very harmful to the Russian economy. And the Russian economy is incredibly weak relative to its military power. So Putin does have to worry considerably that this becomes his Afghanistan economically and politically. Putin has shown repeatedly that the oligarchs are useful in making him very wealthy, but that he can and will break them, have show trials, put them in prison, literally kill them in prison, and devastate them economically. So I think the United States has it wrong in believing that if it goes after the cronies, it's going to make life difficult for Putin.
You know what I'm missing? Again, speaking as television executive, I'm missing Russian Americans saying something. I'm missing sound bites from Russians. I'm missing sound bites from people in Moscow. There's none of that.
There's quite a few on the CNN reporting. They have quite a few of sound bites from Ukrainians in America.
Yes, they're protesting. They're at the White House today protesting.
They're all over the place.
Yeah,
and they got those sound bites, but they don't have sound bites from the average Russian.
I got a note from an average Russian.
I
got a note from an average Russian, Sir Gene. He just gave me an update. The European Union has now announced they are banning Russia Today, Sputnik, and their subsidiaries. The European Commission chief also said the bloc will be shutting down its airspace for all Russian-owned, Russian-registered, or Russian-controlled aircraft. The ban of its skies will include passenger jets and private jets. They mean business, man.
Yes, sounds like it.
I like it. Yeah,
back to Al Jazeera,
Yes.
we go with there's your Ukrainian rundown. This is the Al Jazeera's look at this.
Hold on a second. Yep. Whoa! Good one.
The moment a missile slammed into an apartment block in the south of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. The attack's evidence, say the Ukrainian authorities, of Russia's willingness to hit civilian targets.
We managed to escape. We were in kitchen. We were lucky. It was a direct hit in a living room. My wife and the elder child have their legs broken. Our young child was taken somewhere by rescuers.
Ukraine's president had warned of a difficult night, and for many it came. This, the aftermath of fierce fighting close to people's homes. The Ukrainian army said it had destroyed a Russian military convoy trying to enter the city. Volodymyr Zelensky affirmed Kiev was still in control of the capital and surrounding cities.
Good morning, Ukrainians. There has been a lot of fake information online saying that I'm calling on our army to lay down arms and to evacuate. Listen, I am here. We will not lay down any weapons. We will defend our state because our weapon is our truth. And the truth is that this is our land, our country, and our children. And we will defend all of that. That's all I wanted to tell you.
In the village of Bakhmach in northern Ukraine, Russian forces were met by angry civilians. One man trying to stop an advancing tank with his bare hands. And in the city of Kharkiv, a Russian missile landed in a children's playground. Russia, meanwhile, appears to be sending even more troops and hardware across the border into the country, while insisting it's not targeting Ukrainian cities.
So, one, I love the Tiananmen Square vibe of one man trying to stop a tank. Two,
and actually, I will say this: RT played this too, and that it was a tank, some Russian tank with the guy sitting at the top. It wasn't like they were hiding,
right?
And then, but in a little, very small crowd yelling and screaming at him for being a dick, and so some guy gets in front and pushes on it. It doesn't stop, and then he finally stops. The guy gets on his knees right in front of the tank, and the Russians yelling at him. And so
that's the photo op. That's the photo op. That's what they're going for. Perfect photo op.
It wasn't very good. It was mediocre.
Well, no, they screwed it up, of course.
And so then a bunch of his friends grab him because he was drunk, I guess, and they pull him away. And then the tank goes off, and the tank is a turd of a tank. It's smoke and belch and smoke, and I mean it's polluting the. I mean this thing should be sidelined. It ambles up the road.
Well, that's interesting. We got a note from one of our producers. I think you were copied on this. Let me see. Where is it? Well, keep going. I'll find this note.
Anyway, so why don't you play part 2 of this
Yes.
Al Jazeera clip, and then you can look for the note.
According to Western intelligence, the capital's not yet surrounded. Those Russian troops that have made it as far as Kiev are thought to be Russian special forces and saboteurs. But larger Russian battle groups are getting closer, encountering stiff Ukrainian resistance as they approach. Elsewhere, the Russians have made more decisive gains. This is the city of Melitopol in the country's southeast, where the Russian flag now flies over a local police station.
Southeast, yeah.
This video, shot by Russian state television, shows Russian tanks on the move in Ukraine's east. This is Europe's largest ground war since World War II. Vladimir Putin and some of these troops believe history's on their side.
We've been waiting since 2014. Finally, I'll throw away this gun and we'll live peacefully.
Amidst the fighting, a light-hearted exchange between a Ukrainian driver and some stranded Russian soldiers lost and out of fuel. Ukraine's won. You guys have surrendered, says the driver. Can I tow you back to Russia? The truth is, the conflict's far from over. Ukrainian troops in the capital are fortifying the city. Soon, in hours or days, Moscow will have to make a decision. Sit outside the capital and engineer some political arrangement with the Ukrainian government, or bring in troops and heavy weaponry, and do it in an even more destructive way, with the possibility of mass civilian casualties. The Kremlin has the capacity for both.
So whenever I hear the Southeast, yeah, that's disputed territory. That's the same thing as Georgia. And I put it in the Red Book. I guarantee you 2 years down the line, we'll learn that it was actually the Ukrainian army attacking the Russian separatists. And you'll find that the killing going on in the western Ukraine was the Azov battalion, who are Nazis. They say they're Nazis. They have Nazi shit. They're Nazis. And all I see in the center of Kiev on the square is YouTubers. Well, here we are in the square. Everyone's gone. Nothing. Here's the note. In the morning, Adam and John, given my military background and knowledge of the Russian military in Syria, I have a few thoughts after your last show. The Russian military is not as good as everyone thinks, but they could have crushed Ukraine by now if not for the U.S. equipment and the training provided over the last 8 years, so-called advisors. The Russian tanks, even the T-90, can't match our old TOWs, which are the 1990s wire-guided missile that we gave to the Syrian Free Army. The Javelin, anti-tank guided munition, that are now free to any fighting-age males in Ukraine willing to fight means Russia could pay a high death toll and equipment loss. The problem is no one is trained. That means they are basically $200,000 fireworks. We trained a group of 30 Syrian civilians. This is where it gets serious. Farmers, smugglers, criminals for 3 months. We watched in real time as they tried to assault in an ISIS-controlled town. The group was quickly pinned down with enemy fire, killing about 5 in the first burst of fire. Within 20 minutes, we watched another 10 to 15 get shot or wounded. The remaining men managed to get a few of the wounded out. Only 7 survived the night. Later, we watched 3 ISIS fighters appear and shoot all the bodies, got into a truck, and drove away, and a hellfire ended them shortly after. Civilians with military equipment are just cannon fodder against any trained military men. It's a waste of money helping the military-industrial complex make more money.
Yep.
It's totally, and the shills are out there. Here is, I'm going to play this one, former CIA agent, General Jack, what's his name? Oh, this is a different guy, Jack Keane.
And he's blinded by his inability to see the determination and resolve of the Ukrainians, who will eventually become his worst enemy, the Ukrainian people. Remember, it was the Ukrainian people that ran Yanukovych out. Yep. They didn't fire at him. They ran him out by demonstration. He fled to Russia. The same people we're dealing with here 8 years later, whose resolve is actually more determined than it was 8 years ago. Yes, eventually he will collapse this government. He will put a stooge in to take its place. But he will have to occupy the country if he wants that government to stay in power. And I hope the Central Intelligence Agency provides assistance to the Ukrainians covertly to assist them in overthrowing that stooge government.
Because it worked so well last time. It's fantastic. He's basically saying we need another Maidan. Let's get out there. Let's do what we did last time. That was great.
So the guy who was at the London University, I think we had a clip of him who kind of soft pedaled what was going on and said that was in the Georgia situation was the Russians coming in to move these guys out of this area and then leave right away. I think we're seeing a duplication of that. They're going to blow up that dam, protect the Chernobyl, probably blow some other things up that they need to blow up, and then
why not?
Well, you're there, and then leave. I think they're going to be gone by July.
Oh, I possibly. I don't know.
What would they stick around for? There's not. I mean, it's not like what. I still don't understand. You know, except for blowing up the dam and a few other things they need to do. I don't see why they're there.
Well, the result was predicted.
By the way, they have been trying to get negotiations started. The Russians have, which jacked up the stock market. But the Zelensky guy won't do it because we haven't given him the go-ahead, apparently. I'm all in on the idea that they're just a vassal state of the United States. And
so unfortunately, by dropping AK-47s, by all of this talk, by all of the nonstop M5M, like, oh, yeah, look at the Ukrainians. They're not letting that evil Putin take their country. They're going to kill themselves. This is pretty much what our military analyst producer says here. Is like, this is a very bad idea. And in 2015, after the Maidan F the EU, where the U.S. under Obama installed a total puppet government. There was...
and the joke of it, of course, the puppet government was voted out in favor of a comic, a stand-up comedian.
John Mearsheimer is a political scientist, and he held a speech in 2015, and here's a little bit of it.
But I actually think that what's going on here is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path, and the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked.
Rubblized.
And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians. What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become part of the West, because we will ultimately defeat Putin and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. Well, as I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked. And what we're doing is, in effect, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense for us to work to create a neutral Ukraine. It would be in our interest to bury this crisis as quickly as possible. It certainly would be in Russia's interest to do so. And most importantly, it would be in Ukraine's interest to put an end to the crisis. Thank you.
Yeah, great idea, but no.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to rubbleize!
Rubble on the double!
Who was that guy?
That is Mearsheimer. Hold on a second. His name is... the whole speech is interesting. John Mearsheimer.
Oh, yeah, the professor.
Professor, yeah.
Yeah, he has a lot to say about Ukraine.
He does.
And he's right. That was the only sensible thing I've heard in the series of clips we both played in terms of like some realism.
I really miss Professor Cohen.
Yeah, it's too bad.
That guy, man, he would have... Well, he would have been an RT and unseen, of course. I only have a few more. If you got anything else before we...
I got a few. I don't have the one I wanted. I seem to have got lost in the shuffle, which is how about the thermobaric bomb that they're supposedly bringing in? And
oh, gosh. No, I missed that story.
I do have an RT clip I want to play, which is the idea that...
you realize you're now giving aid and comfort to Putin by playing these RT clips.
I'm playing these RT clips because they're giving us information we're otherwise not getting.
Yeah, that's not in America. That's called aid and comfort.
That Ukraine is not a bunch of innocents, sitting there, especially those Nazis you talked about.
Yeah.
But they've been shelling Rostock, which is on the other side of the border. They've been shooting it. And it's not they're not a pounding away. But
wait, who's shooting? Who's shelling?
The Ukrainians are shooting into the Russian homeland.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like Hamas, shooting those occasional bombs into Israel.
It's firecrackers, yeah.
Firecrackers. And I got a little clip of it. This is a guy that's reporting on it, that's shelling on Rostock.
Okay. Hold on. Where is Rostock? That's southeast? The southeast?
It's over by
where the shit has been going on since 2014. It's never stopped.
Luckily, nobody was injured. Infrastructure wasn't damaged either. It landed in a forested area. Now, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry says that its military has not been shooting at the territory of the Russian Federation, but this is not the first instance in which bombs have fallen here. Yesterday, in this very same region of Rostov, at least 14 artillery strikes took place on border areas within the region. And right after the beginning of the Russian military offensive, there were other such instances. In Bryansk region, there was shelling there where houses were destroyed and 3 people were injured. The same thing happened in Belgorod. Infrastructure was damaged, shelling happened, and 3 people were also injured there. Interestingly enough, more recently near Belgorod region, a Ukrainian soldier had been trying to escape to the Russian Federation. Federation trying to basically defect, and neo-fascist groups there that had their hands on artillery batteries had fired at him and unfortunately killed him and injured another serviceman in the Russian Federal Security Services as well. Now, because of this violence that's actually been happening on the Russian Federation, the authorities have taken measures. They've closed down Russia's southern airspace. Basically, there's going to be no flights out of this area. There's 12 airports in Rostov region alone that will not be having flights. Another thing they've done is close down all the schools that are located in border regions that border the Donbas People's Republics. We have to remember that there are at least 3,000 children from Donetsk and Lugansk alone that have left, that have evacuated that region to the Russian Federation and are connected to educational institutions in these border regions. So that's another task the Russian authorities now have on their hands. What are they going to do? Where are they going to put them so that they can make sure to continue their education?
Education? Education.
Make sure the kids get...
Unlike
the way we do it.
Yeah, right. Where we just throw diapers on their heads and put them on in front of a computer. So important, education.
Yeah, so these little skirmishes, I guess, have been going on for a while.
Forever. That whole area is, and it's the Ukrainians shelling the Russians. It's always been that way. It looks better when you say, "Oh, look at this war-torn area. That must be Putin." Back at home, CNN is where we could. C-SPAN is where you can always hear the real opinion of the American.
And my concern right now, and biggest concern, is nuclear holocaust. We are so on the verge of having a nuclear holocaust. We will not have World War III. We will have a nuclear holocaust, and Russia will be the first one to do it because he's not going to stand by and just take it. I'm serious. I'm so worried, but I'm thankful I don't have any grandchildren because if I did, I would be scared to death.
Oh, poor lady.
Well, you can see why she has no grandchildren.
John, you don't know anything about her. Of course, you're listening to a podcast, an independent production. Don't expect to see any of this deconstruction on FaceBag.
Facebook taking action overnight after Russia announced it is limiting the social media platform. Deirdre Bolton is here with that part of our coverage.
Limiting.
Good morning to you, Deirdre.
Good morning. And you're right. Overnight, Facebook releasing this statement saying it is now prohibiting Russian state media from running ads or monetizing content on the platform anywhere in the world. It is also going to continue to apply labels to content. So those changes rolling out over the weekend. The move made after Russian authorities demanded that Facebook stop independently fact-checking and labeling content posted by 4 of the country's state-owned media organizations. Meta, that's Facebook's parent company, refused. So Russia says it's now enacting a partial restriction on the platform. No one exactly knows what that means. Meta also launching
another laugh. What is this? They say she's laughing at the restrictions because no one knows what that means. Is she not a reporter? Is she not a journalist who would then go and find out what that means?
You know, these laugh tells are getting on my nerves. Can you play that one again?
Partial restriction on the platform. No one exactly knows what that means. Meta also launching a new...
what, are you just reading press releases? That's what she's saying. I read a press release that I saw this morning. Facebook put it out overnight, and they say this. And I didn't call him. I didn't ask him. I have no contacts there. I'm just on ABC Good Morning America. I don't have any pull. I can't get anyone. I didn't even ask. Why would I ask? I'll just read the press release. Don't you think that's what's going on there?
And she's laughing at herself, you think?
She's laughing.
Or she's laughing at the situation.
No.
She's laughing at something.
I think she's laughing at the fact that if you ask Facebook anything, they won't talk to you. They don't talk to the media. They don't give statements. When they do, they get in trouble. And so they've just given up, you see. War or no war, they've just given up.
State-owned media organizations. Meta, that's Facebook's parent company, refused. So Russia says it's now enacting a partial restriction on the platform. No one exactly knows what that means. Meta also launching a new feature in Ukraine that allows users to lock their profiles, significantly limiting what information is publicly visible. That is an extra layer of security. Since Russia launched its attack on Ukraine on Thursday, Russians are posting expressions of shame and anger on social media, and of course human rights activists in Russia voicing concern that the Kremlin would crack down on freedoms in the wake of the invasion. So it just shows us how these situations with fluidity and of course this social media overlay so important for people's safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you see the social media companies, they need to do this for people's safety. We can't, it's for safety. We're keeping you safe by not letting you access information. And the BBC screwed up big time on this agreement. They brought on, and it was like a 9-minute interview, and I encourage everybody to listen to it. The audio clip will be in the show notes, nashownotes.com. They had on Ukrainian, I think it was a member of parliament, Vitaly Melanov, and I'll just play the beginning of it just for a bit so you can hear, because it's completely a different narrative.
And on this programme, we've been hearing in the past half hour a number of voices from Ukraine describing what's happening. We're going to spend a few minutes now hearing from Russia and a Russian politician.
Russian politician.
Vitaly Milanov is an MP from the ruling United Russia Party.
There we go.
I asked him why, first of all, Russia had invaded Ukraine.
For many years, you've been trying to use this poor territory with a weak state as anti-Russian force. And now it's a small payback time. It's like a reasonable reaction towards the aggression. So-called Ukrainian military forces, as far as I can call these people, running as fast as possible towards Poland now. These people, being used by you, Europeans. You did it, actually.
Well, I don't understand. What you used in what way? I mean, Ukraine is a sovereign country, and it has a right to self-determination, and it's made its choice to become a democratic country that looks to Europe and the West for support.
You used to call Ukraine as a sovereign country only when it's important to call them sovereign.
But you're making it sound like it's a sort of puppet government of the European Union. When
yes.
What it looks like is about to happen is that Russia wants to create a puppet government in Ukraine.
No. We felt ourselves quite comfortable with Ukraine as a sovereign state, being a peaceful neighbor of Russian Federation for many years. Right after your best started to make politics there from the so-called revolution in Ukraine, right after your unsuccessful attempt to make your puppy state in 2014, they became a country with a very aggressive position. For 8 years, this
bullshit.
Please, sir, can we just keep the language clean? Are you saying that this is all Europe?
You want to hear more?
Yeah.
Europe and Washington's fault?
Of course, you use this country for your own personal political needs to act against Russia. Haven't you foreseen this situation, that if you're trying to push Russian bear for 8 years, sometimes it can happen vice versa?
You're making it sound like Russia is the victim in all this, but it's Russia that's launched this military action. No one else has.
Russia is sending pigeons of peace over Ukraine because I think that most of Ukrainians are dreaming to kick out Zelensky and all your advisors sent by UK and European Union and United States.
People voted for President Zelensky. Isn't that what Russia really hates? The fact that Ukraine is a democracy and it's decided not to throw in its lot with Russia, but actually with the West. And Russia doesn't like that.
People in Donbass and Lugansk, they have voted officially by absolute majority to go out of Ukraine. Why don't you give them a chance to go out of this country?
Well, did we see that vote? Did we know that took place? Did they have some referendum?
That was suppressed.
I didn't know anything about it. Hold on.
Well, it was suppressed.
Yeah.
Well, why would you want to know?
Yeah,
would they let you know that?
Of course.
Is a democracy, and it's decided not to throw in its lot with Russia, but actually with the West. And Russia doesn't like that.
People in Donbass and Lugansk, they have voted officially by absolute majority to go out of Ukraine? Why don't you give them a chance to go out of this country?
Well, that is disputed, though. I just need to ask you this, Mr. Milanov. Is that the aim? Is it simply to absorb the Donbass, Luhansk and Donetsk into Russia, or is this a full-scale occupation of Ukraine?
Look, you have to send your reporters to the region.
No, we have cell phone video from Bellingcat. We don't need that.
Your reporters to the region.
Well,
and
they are there. They're there.
They will send you right figures with the people with the flowers welcoming the liberators from the Ukrainian Nazi regime. And I'm absolutely sure that what Putin is doing right now is a very necessary and important job to clean Nazi, even feeded by European Union and Americans, out from Europe. So you have to make Putin the most honorable man in the world.
No. Oh, my goodness. There's more to that. I'm going to cut it off here.
I have one last clip now.
Well, there was 1 4-second response. The BBC guy then had former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, on. And here's what he said.
You put him on and then you put me on. It's here's one view, here's another view. And I don't like that.
What?
Yeah. He said, you put that guy on. And then you put me on. You're using one view against the other. I don't like it.
You put him on, and then you put me on. It's here's one view, here's another view, and I don't like that.
Oh,
holy mackerel! No. What a clip!
Of course not. Of course he doesn't like that.